Listener discretion is advised.
The opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the individuals, and they do not reflect any official view of the United Steelworkers, USW Local 105, or its officers or sub-board members for officers.
Now, from the banks of the mighty Mississippi, this is Steel Revolution.
Hello, podcast listeners, and welcome to Steel Revolution 88.
88.
Thanks, Shawn. I'm Roy Hutt.
I'm Mike Nicholas.
Brad Grieve.
Shawn Geisens.
All right, we're here to go over the local news and other news relating to unions and workers. So, in the local news, we had third-level grievances that were held on February 3rd and 4th. The company has 45 days to give us answers on them, and we do have arbitration set for the end of April. On the recalled employees, we got about everybody back that's coming back for now, and we will continue to work with the company to recall employees, try to backfill openings for retirements.
Right, we've recalled 31 employees starting back in December with 9 general mechanics, January 1 brick mason, and 21 production employees in February.
On the COVID front, again a reminder, we have masks and gaiters down here for sale. We are up to 369 confirmed cases of people that work out at the plant. That number does seem to be at least leveling off, and we went a good stretch here this week without any positives being reported. So good news there. Reminder, if you're sick, stay home. If you can't be 6 feet away from somebody on the floor or in a break area, you need to wear a mask. Also wear your mask between the gates and the red PPE lines. And you should have air purifiers in most of our break areas. I know I've seen a few floating around IPS.
If you don't, you need to say something to somebody.
On the vaccine, we've been getting a lot of questions. Got questions this week at our business meetings. You know, what's going on with the vaccine? Is there any chance to get it out at the plant? Got an update today. The plant is working with the Scott County Health Department to try to get vaccines here. They've went through a survey with them and also shared with them that it was about 70% of our employees out here would be interested in it. So they're working. They're trying to get it out here. We'll see what happens. Again, we are not advocating or mandating that everybody gets a vaccine. If you want one, hopefully they'll be at the plant and we'll be able to get them there. I know at least my doctor's office, they're told me I'm out of luck.
Yeah, I mean, what some of the issues for me are the states are doing different things. If you live in Illinois, you can get the vaccine right now. Anybody that works at Arconic, you may need a letter and have to make your own appointment, but your groups are available.
Yeah, they are.
Where in Iowa, regardless of whether the vaccine is there or not, they're only giving it to the A group, which was, I mean, there's some reasons that medical people and that would get it first, and the long-term care for elderly and their staff, but they will not even, in Iowa, they're not including our workplace as essential workers. Now, are there people that should be ahead of us? You know, the firefighters and things like that? Yeah, maybe, but our leadership here in Iowa hasn't even got us on the radar. So, and when I say leadership, it's our governor and the House and Senate out here in the state of Iowa. So the only way I see that we're going to get to that point anytime soon will be if the federal government provides some supply in here. But if you are 65 in Iowa, you can reach out. I mean, it's Walgreens in Scott County along with the county health department. So there is some available out there. And if you get on it and you're adamant about getting it, I think you will get an appointment. It's not necessarily easy, but they are available out there, and hopefully we'll be getting more.
Well, if you live in Illinois, call your county health department and find out how to make an appointment. Sometimes you got to be up at midnight to make them. Sometimes they start them at 10 in the morning. So just call your county health department and see what you need to do.
In other local news, we will be having our local union officer elections. So I would say there's no greater, or I guess there's no other thing you can do with greater importance with your union other than what you do around contract time than electing your representatives here.
And in March we'll have the nominations, so that's that'll be our next meeting. We just finished up this week with our regular meeting, and March 16th will be nominations. If you are nominated, you've got until Sunday night following the nominations, which is March 21st, to have that postmarked. A lot easier just to fill that out if you get nominated at the meeting and or shortly after handing it to one of the officers. Ballot position draw will be on March 24th, and then the ballots will go out on April 5th, and they will need to be back on April 22nd. So we'll have a post office box. That thing will be, there won't be anybody has access to that until they pick up the ballots on the 22nd. And that'll probably be at the end of business up there. Whenever the post office closes, they'll pick them up right prior to that. And then the tellers will be here at the hall to check off ballots and then count the ballots.
Thanks, Brad. In Iowa and Illinois news, guess Iowa. Just know that the governor and the legislation out there is trying to cut unemployment benefits now during this time when there's a lot of people getting on unemployment. Of course, they want to cut you deeper, and they want to cut your benefits. And let's see if I remember that right. They want to take you got to have a week waiting period. That was one. Was the other, if your business shuts down, they want to take you down your weeks of benefits. What was that, Brad?
Remove 13 weeks, which is 39 weeks down to 26.
And then
if you have dependents, there is some extra money there if you have multiple dependents, but they want to just have one rate and no compensation for you having one kid, two kids, or four. So they want to reduce that.
All right. Anything else with Iowa? Or?
No, I mean, we talked earlier, and I haven't got an update on the school voucher thing, but, private schools are private schools, and any private business out there ought to be able to make it on their business model and not require public funds. So, anyway, talk to your senators, your House of Representative, and tell them what you think. I mean, I know there's people on both sides of the issue, and anyway, we need to be communicating. We elect people, even if the person you didn't vote for, got in there. We need to talk to them about our issues and concerns and what we need in laws. So there should be a continual conversation back and forth by either email or phone.
I think another part of that is if you take funding away from public schools, whether it's universities, the public high schools, whatever, it's going to drive wages and benefits down for union members that are there. Ultimately, drive more teachers out of the state of Iowa and to other neighboring states that have better rules around unions and what they can bargain, like Minnesota. Moving on to Illinois, we have had a couple topics brought up after we posted our last podcast, and I looked into a few. We are going to miss things. There's a lot of information out there, and there's a few topics that to be able to talk about on this podcast, because it doesn't either come from the Iowa Federation of Labor, the AFL-CIO, or the steel workers, and we have to do the fact checking on. It takes a lot of time, and we just don't have it. So, but I did want to address two. One was the fact that there was cutting of bargaining rights for Illinois employees, or Illinois was. So what found was there was Illinois House Bill 3653, which was a police reform bill, and going through a interview with their union president for the, so I believe it was the state troopers, and trying to find some stuff. It was hard to find on this bill. The first bill sounds like it did a lot like Iowa did, which was the gutting of Chapter 20, and it severely limited bargaining for them, what they could and couldn't bargain for. It looked like it was only wages, and it wasn't much more than that. By the time the bill passed, it ended up the only thing that was in there that they couldn't bargain with that they had before was a residency requirement. So they can't bargain over anything that impacts cities with over 100,000 people in the population. They had to have residency in that city, is the way I took that. And the chief or the head of the union that was in the interview that I watched said that if they had to lose one thing, that one was the thing to lose. So not happy with that, and the other thing they said was they weren't at the table when they were talking about the reform bill, as union not happy with that either. But like most anything, no matter who you vote for, no matter who you want, there's going to be things you agree with, there's going to be things you don't agree with. And the same thing, Illinois also did away with right to work zones that would have gave counties and that the ability to have right to work zones for businesses. So there's pros and cons. Again, not really happy with some of what was in there, but at least it didn't do what Iowa did. Second, there was a second lawsuit that was part of the Janus ruling against unions by the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court struck down a second lawsuit that was wanting to give the ability to employees that worked for public sector unions that didn't belong, that they could go back and collect wages or their fair share or their dues past the time when it was ruled that it was freedom of speech, and that they could get away without paying dues. So to finish up that topic, I would say, if freedom of speech means I can get something for nothing, then let me say I got freedom of speech. Let me go to the Y. Let me go to Gold's Gym. Let me go to whatever, and I can use all their equipment and say it's free speech, and I can get all the benefits, and I don't have to pay for
anything.
something.
That's right.
Which is what that is.
Yep.
You're getting all the benefits, and you don't have to pay. Moving on to national news, that is Black History Month. Wanted to bring up a few people. This was on the Steelworker Facebook page. Hattie Chanty, called one of the greatest strike leaders in U.S. history. She was a strong voice for the culinary workers in Las Vegas. In 1984, she helped plan a 75-day strike by Las Vegas casino workers, and in 1990, she was elected president of the Las Vegas Hotel and Culinary Workers Union Local 226. According to Wikipedia, as president, she led a number of publicized strikes, including a 1991 strike where she led 550 culinary workers from New Frontier Hotel and Gambling Hall in protest of unfair labor conditions. The strike was the longest labor strike in American history and lasted 6.5 years.
Wow.
Also, to go along with that, I just, one of the things the steelworkers handed out at something was a small framed picture with a quote from Frederick Douglass: "Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will." So I mean that was one of my favorite quotes, and it's on my desk, and it reminds me that contract is about 15 months away.
Mm-hmm.
So remember to get ready, and we're gonna have to do what we did last time, and maybe more than that, and show up and stand up and bring back another good contract here in 15 months. to go along with what one of our listeners said we didn't bring up was the Keystone Pipeline and the the memes on Facebook and everything going around with that. So I thought took a look at a couple fact checking places and tried to come up with some facts and to put it in context for people. So the Keystone Pipeline is owned by TC Energy Corp, which is a Canadian company that owns the pipeline, which heavy crude oil mixture is pumped from Western Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, to the Gulf of Mexico. Or to Houston, to Texas, to Louisiana, where oil refineries are. It stated there was a loss anywhere from 11,000 to, I think Uncle Ted said it was 83,000. So the State Department released somewhere around 10,400 seasonal jobs lasting 4 to 8 months, with an estimated of 7 to 8,000 union jobs. After construction, 50 employees would remain, 35 permanent, and 15 temporary contractors. Now, some of them permanent workers would be in Canada, so not a whole lot of workers would remain after the construction. Right after President Biden made his announcement that he was going to cancel that or revoke their, what did they have, lease or whatever, there was 1,000 laid off. Keystone was exempt from President Trump U.S. made steel mandates. See, the U.S. State Department said the pipeline has minimal effect on gas prices in the U.S. Said that it could maybe replace 2 million barrels of oil that was imported and to be refined. But the vast majority, so only 2 million out of the 2 million barrels that were coming down would maybe remain in the U.S. to be used. The others, all the rest of all the oil that was refined down there would be exported. Let's see, TransCanada said in one that agreements for the steel pipeline for Keystone, that half of the pipe came from an Arkansas plant that is based out of India, the steelmaker Wellspun. 10% of the Wellspun plant in India remained, or 10% came from India and Italy, and then the rest was from Canada. So only about 50% of the steel, according to what I found, was made in America. Canada, another important fact, Canada already exports that crude oil down to the Gulf to be refined. That what I read in the article, that kind of crude oil, we have the ability to refine that. It's going to go down there to be refined, most likely no matter what. Because there are a few pipelines running east to west across Canada, the Canadian oil mostly flows down to the United States refineries, again because they got the capability of processing it, turned into oil, or turned into gasoline, jet fuel, and other refined products. Some of the current pipelines are already expanding, and it is expected that Canadian exports will continue to grow. Down to here, how they move the oil now without the expansion, or without the expansions that are happening now, or the Keystone Pipeline, is they do by trucks, tanker ships, railways. That's how they get it down to the refineries or to the ports. Now on the other side is the environmental groups or Montana tribes, which believe that because the pipeline would cross the Missouri and Milk rivers, from which they get irrigation and drinking water supplies, because the pipeline does not cross reservation land, the tribes don't see any money in it. But if it leaks, it would leak into the Missouri and Milk rivers, which is where they get their irrigation and their drinking water supplies. What I want to say, so when you think about that, it's all environmental regulations, and when environmental regulations come in, one sector's loss is always another one's gain, from what we've seen. And I think it's a little bit ironic if we say stuff about environmental regulations. And why I say that is, one, it's no good to lose a bunch of union jobs. It's not. But on the same side, when the Obama administration made the fuel mileage standards, which drove automakers to lightweight cars, it drove them away from steel into aluminum. And if you don't think that our brothers and sisters in steel that saw a bunch of work leaving their plants was pissed off about it and pissed off at us, yeah, you're sadly mistaken. We are enjoying, at least having some work here at the plant because of those regulations. And not to mention too that if the pipeline's built, what ends up happening is you're going to lose a bunch of jobs in the trucking, whatever affects trucking. So the tanker truck or trailers, which we provide aluminum for.
Yep.
You're not going to see an increase in that. Trailer roofs that we also do. The restaurants, the hotels, the truck sales, whatever else is in with trucking, that is going to see a decline for the pipeline being built.
Yeah, so I think you already mentioned it. The pipeline shutting down, they're gonna get that oil there or that crude there somehow, right? So the trucking business is gonna pick up, or the railroad's gonna pick up. So there's jobs in all of that, like you just said.
The other thing, and thanks for all the facts and information, Roy, but the other thing for me is we have a lot of infrastructure jobs out there that need to be done. So the trades, the jobs are there. And the one thing we want also as steel workers is any kind of aluminum, steel, or any products that have to be used to build these roads and bridges and whatever other infrastructures out there need to be made here in this country by our union workers across the board. And then a lot of them road construction jobs would be bridges, whatever, takes a lot of manpower. So that work is available if we could get an infrastructure bill passed. And I think if you look on the line, the steelworkers are trying to explain that to the membership on their website about what is infrastructure, because it's a lot more than bridges and roads, but simply that's where the jobs are at. And this Keystone Pipeline, it's been out there for a long time. I think it's just a political football and really used to divide us between some of the trades and who's making the steel and stuff. So thanks, Roy, for clarifying some of that. And we need to push our legislators again to get these infrastructure. That benefits us to have good roads and bridges and safe roads and bridges to drive on, and it also is a huge deal for our employers to transport our product across the country.
Yep.
Yeah, it's something I don't know if we have time to do all the time, but it was, I thought, worth it though in the long run. I'm glad the individual that brought it up did bring it up. I think it's worth talking about, and we're going to have people on either side of this issue. I'm not telling you one way or the other, but let's put some facts to it rather than just whatever memes on Facebook, and then put some context around it too. So another news, most of this other stuff's coming from the USW applauds President Biden's pick for Labor Secretary and Commerce Secretary, but I wanted to focus on the Labor Secretary, which is Boston Mayor Marty Walsh as Labor Secretary, and this is a quote from Tom Conway, our international president. As a longtime union member and former union leader from the Boston Building and Construction Trades Council, Walsh understands the value of a hard day's work and collective bargaining contract. Given Walsh's commitment to workers' rights, including the right to organize, he will undoubtedly use the office of Labor Secretary to continue fighting on behalf of all working people. And I do have some audio from him, so we'll take a listen to that and come back.
I think what the common thread between being a public servant and being a head of a union is sharing the passion, is that common thread of helping people in different areas. The jobs are very similar. You represent people. What you're trying to do is advocate on their behalf. You're trying to make sure that people have good lives. You're trying to make sure that their families are successful and they're safe. And that's really what the shared responsibility is, or the shared value is here, in whether you're an elected official or you're a union delegate, or even if you're a leader of a local union. It is about sharing compassion and moving forward.
In other USW press releases, USW condemns Trump's selling out of U.S. industrial workers and applauds Biden's revocation of Trump's actions. So, Section 232 restraints help shore up sectors like aluminum that were vulnerable to unfair trade and clearly essential to our national defense. USW supported the initiation of these efforts so that Americans' aluminum companies and their workers could meet the nation's national security and critical infrastructure needs. Trump's plan to lift tariffs on imports from the United Arab Emirates would undermine the effectiveness of the program, essentially exempt the vast majority of aluminum imports. If Trump's actions were allowed to become effective, the UAE's state-supported aluminum producers would have the right to flood the U.S. market, resulting in new trade actions on our industry. In short, as he was walking away from the White House, Trump demonstrated that his concern for American workers was a facade, and he was willing to sacrifice their jobs and security. That is from President Tom Conway.
So think about that. No matter what side you're on, what do you think he was trying to do? I mean, within his last 24 hours, he pulls the tariffs. No, seriously. No matter what side you're on, what was he trying to do? Was he trying to undermine Biden? Was he trying to screw the American workers? What was he doing? Or was he trying to say, you can't do this without me? Honestly, I haven't figured that out.
The only thing I can figure out is there was something in it for him.
That's
believed there was.
No, I think so.
And I don't, and I don't want to get into it to a bunch of that, but the USW supported him when he put this stuff into effect, and he did do some stuff with aluminum sheet, and that helped us. That helped us. I mean, we heard it, we saw it at the plant, and that stuff helped us. So this makes no sense on why he would have done it when he did the other stuff with the tariffs and this 232 section for national defense. He did all that before, which helped some steel, which helped aluminum, and then to do it like that, it doesn't make any sense. And we even brought it up on here. Hey, it was great when he put in those tariffs, and we saw a benefit from it. I mean, we did say
that's why I asked that question, because I just can't figure it out, and I wish somebody would ask him, hey, why did you do this as you were leaving? Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, again, what Brad says, I think we're through most of that stuff. So, I do want to make a point that, we're not going to be able to bring up everything. We will try to be as fair as possible, try to bring news to people who want it and want to listen and have an open mind about what we're doing. Most of the stuff is going to come from our international. And what Brad said, no matter who you elect, you got to hold their feet to the fire, and no matter who you elect or didn't vote for, you're going to agree with some stuff, or you're not going to agree with everything. There's times when I've sided with Kim Reynolds on a few things, but not everything, and with what she did to public sector unions, I would certainly vote her out. That's what my main thing I'm concerned about is workers and being able to form a union. But so with that being said, USW commends the executive order supporting domestic manufacturing. Another quotes from Tom Conway. When we undertake federal-funded projects, we must ensure that our tax dollars support American production and jobs rather than our foreign competitors, who all too often seek to undermine our industries by flooding our markets with unfair traded products. Today's order strengthening domestic content requirements, closing loopholes in how domestic content is measured, and calling for stricter enforcement of existing legislation like the Jones Act is an important step towards revitalizing our manufacturing base as well as protecting and creating thousands of good family-sustaining jobs. Further, taking concrete steps to make it easier to identify and utilize U.S. suppliers as outlined in the order will help ensure that we are effectively meeting our own needs as we look to rebuild our long neglected domestic supply chains. And to go along with that, the USW is launching an infrastructure campaign called We Supply America. So you get on there, you can take a survey, you can get to the survey at www.uswvoices.org. You can go to also usw.org and find that survey. It says here, one of our most significant projects this year is a new union-wide campaign aimed at rebuilding our rapidly crumbling infrastructure. This effort is important both because infrastructure upgrades will make our community safer and because significant investment will create good union jobs now and into the future. So they're looking for your support, and play a little clip from Tom Conway.
Sometimes the best thing we can do is be bold, and this is one of those times. Lately, we've been through a lot, but we're steel workers, and we were made for these fights. Our union built this country, and we're ready to do it again. It's time to get to work rebuilding America, using the things we make and investing in the things we do. That's why our union is launching a new campaign, We Supply America. I want to make something crystal clear. This is more than rebuilding our crumbling roads and bridges. It's rebuilding the heart and soul of this country. And we're going to insist we do it with the things we make. Going all in on infrastructure will make us safer and put people back to work. It's American and steelworker ingenuity at their best. We need to not just talk about it. It's time we actually do it and do it right. But we need your help. Please take a few minutes and fill out our survey at uswvoices.org. Let us know what you do, what you make, and most importantly, what you think. Stay tuned for more ways our union will be working on this crucial issue. Stay safe, and thanks for all you do to supply America.
All right, another national news that trying to get the PRO Act passed again, which the PRO Act would make it easier for people to form a union. Also would punish employers that tried to discourage people and use unfair tactics to not get a union within their workplace.
Yeah, and the PRO Act came out of the House last year and died a long, agonizing death in the Senate, where a lot of bills that were good for workers and American people went to die the last session. So we've got a new, fresh start here, and that hopefully that PRO Act will get over there in the same form that it was and get passed through the Senate. And let's move on and give a level playing field to workers that want to organize and, again, do some other things to support working people already in unions.
It also does something to right to work, right? It makes that goes away.
Yeah, it'll be a national, get rid of that nationally so states won't have these individual rules. So the misnomer right to work that takes our rights away from us.
If you want the scabs to pay their fair share, you need to call your representative and tell them to pass the PRO Act.
That's right.
And you can, the number you can call from our rapid response group, 1-877-607-0785. They'll get you in touch with your senators. other organizing news. Maybe Mike, maybe you've heard more about this or heard any updates, but historic organizing event and vote that was happening, I believe it's all this week, is the Amazon workers down in Alabama, right?
It starts this week. Because of COVID, they're running it through March. I think like the second or third week in March. Yeah, it's huge. I mean, if this one goes through, it's going to be a ripple effect. I don't know how much you've seen on this, but I read several articles last week. Amazon's taken some pretty big lengths to stop this. They've hired 2 different firms just for this one location to stop them from either voting or voting yes. I mean, they've gone as far as when these people go into the bathroom, there is posters in the bathroom telling them to vote no. I mean, that's just crazy. They're just doing tons of stuff to stop them from voting. They're requiring them to go to meetings every week. They've not had the one guy said, I've never had a safety meeting at Amazon, but I've had 10 vote no union meetings in the last 2 months. It's just crazy. So anything we can do, if you see it on social media, to support these guys in their vote, we need to do it.
I did see that the NLRB ruled against Amazon to try to postpone the voting.
Yep.
I did see that.
Yeah. It started. Roy, you're right. It started this week. I think it goes through like March 16th is what I read last night. So
that's why I haven't seen. I saw it starts, and there was a bunch of stuff saying it started, but then the news died down. So that must be why, because it's so long.
Yep.
In other news, we did put it out. I think looks like it was our last Facebook post, was advertising that show Tough as Nails, because there's a fellow steelworker, Swifty, from local 1011 out of Gary, Indiana.
Yep.
Works at ArcelorMittal. He's works in the steel mill around the molten steel. So was watching that and promoting that, and I'll say, Mike, I know you watched the first one, right?
I did. Yep.
Shawn?
No.
Brad? I'll take that as a no.
He doesn't own a TV.
You don't know where he is right now.
I'm reading about Amazon workers.
So what I thought was cool, I know me and you talked about it, Mike. It was people like us. They're in better shape than me, but it was people like us, people you could relate to, fellow steel worker, and also never saw as much union talk in any show.
Nope, you're right.
As you do on there, bricklayers, pipe fitters, all these union guys are on this show, and women, and it's great to see. To me, it was refreshing. I enjoyed it.
I thought it was a good TV show. I mean, it's topics you can relate to. They talk about things that everyday people deal with. So, yeah, good show.
Yep. So check it out if you get the opportunity.
I'm Swifty, and I'm a steel worker.
Swifty has a nickname, Superman, and he's working with melted steel that's at a temperature of around 2,700 degrees. Hence, he's called the man of steel.
Everything in there is hard. Everything's made out of steel or iron. The environment doesn't change. It's that way every single day. It takes a lot. I'm bringing leadership. Somebody that won't quit as I'm going all the way through.
This man is here to win tough as nails. He wants that money. He knows it's life-changing. He wants to take that money back to his family.
I got 2 sons that I know they're going to be watching to see how tough I really am.
Powerful blows coming from Swifty.
I just want to make sure that my kids have a better chance, because I got lucky a lot of times. I don't want them to ever be in that situation, so everything I do is for them.
And with that, our long-winded, no-guest show is coming to an end. Unless, Brad, you got something else?
I hope not.
He usually does. Just when you're ready to be done with something.
Did a good job, Roy. Thanks to our tech guy. He's kept things under wraps here today.
You're welcome.
Can't give anybody a compliment without complimenting Shawn.
As it should.
I'm just
How you doing, Princess?
I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. And then I will duct tape his when we're done.
Shawn,
Well, hello, Roy. How are you?
where can people find us?
Our Facebook page, Apple Podcast, Podcast Addict for Android devices. That's an app. iHeartRadio app, Spotify app, Radio.com app, Lipson.com, Local's websites, and the men's restroom at Local 105 in Bettendorf, Iowa.
I got to get Brad some artwork so we can get some new pint glasses.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we should do that every year.
I agree.
There are people that said I will
Yeah,
take these every time
I
we
would do
get
it
a
too.
new one.
Can you
I'll
put
collect them.
Steel Revolution on there?
I think that's
The
what we're gonna
official
go for.
listening device?
I think we'll.
Oh.
Ah, you
I
like
like
that.
that.
Thank you.
Too
I
bad
get
it
a
came
cut
out
of that,
your
don't I?
mouth.
That's the best thing you said all day.
Year.
Thank you.
You contributed now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, where is this off button at then?
Well, before Shawn pushes the off button, don't forget to say something good about your union.
Every day.
Every day.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Steel Revolution is a production of Steelworkers 105, Bettendorf, Iowa.